All right, so crew, I am with my cousin, Jamel. This is actually the last interview, or rather conversation, I like to call it, for Father's Day, leading up to Father's Day. And yeah, I'm here with one of my faves.
Hey, I'm excited.
Mm-hmm. He is an amazing father, and you guys will be able to understand that as we have a conversation. So I was telling the other guys that I had interviewed that I chose them because they are amazing fathers. From what I see, from what I know about them, they really are. And the thing is, social media, TV, media, I kind of have a love-hate relationship with it because yes, it informs us of a lot of things, but unfortunately, it portrays Black men, Black fathers not in the best light. And so thanks to social media, though, and platforms like podcasts and, people's own brands and websites where they can create their own thing, we get to create our own narratives. And so, yeah, I am highlighting you as well as the other two men that I interviewed to just show the world that there are amazing Black fathers out there.
Absolutely.
Right? So my first question is, what was your relationship like with your dad?
So my father actually passed away when I was around 11 years old. So I can't say that I had much of a relationship with him. I do remember, times him being in my life, but even before he passed away, he wasn't, really a part of my life. Because, I was moved down south at that time with our grandmother or whatever. So, so I feel like we just never got the opportunity. He never got the opportunity to get it right. And I never got the opportunity to see him get it right, if you will.
Yeah. So did you have a person in your life that kind of filled that spot? Or, yeah.
I definitely had, my grandfather was a big instrument of the kind of man that I decided to become. My mom's mom. Right? Granddad Charles.
Too, right?
Yeah, and also my Uncle Perry. He's like my hero. Like to me, he defines. If I could be the kind of man that he is in his manliness, like how gentle he is with like his wife, and how cool and calm and collective he is with his family, but also his presence says strength, he's definitely someone that I tend to go to for advice. So he's been like a big, huge role model for me.
Shout out to Uncle Perry.
Uncle P.
Right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I asked that because I know, sometimes there is a person that kind of like fills those shoes, but at the same time, in a way doesn't fill those shoes.
Right.
Did you ever what was your thinking? Like, what was your, did you ever just long for that real connection or connection with your dad, even though you had somebody in your life to kind of fill those shoes?
Oh yeah, absolutely. What's weird is like growing up, it didn't affect me as much. Like you hear a lot of the kids like that kind of becomes their behavior patterns because they don't have a dad in their life. It didn't really affect me until I had my first child. And it still affects me now where it's a lot of, wow, I wonder, the what ifs, like, if he was living, like, and not knowing a lot about our family on that side and, looking at my kids and they look so much like him. And so, yeah, I do. I reference him a lot more now because I feel like I'm leaving his legacy, if you will. So it's kind of one of them things where, yeah, I do now as an adult more than I did as a kid. Yeah.
Gotcha. What do you know about him? Like, what's one thing that you know about him that stands out to you?
That everybody say he was like a good-looking, cool guy. That's like the main thing that they say is like he cool. And also, I do remember him growing up because he did grow up with a mom and a dad, so he had that structure of. So when we would get in trouble, me and my brother, I can remember we couldn't leave the room until we apologized. That was like huge for him, and that stood out to me at the age of 5. I can still remember like that was important for him for us to get along. Or whatever, despite what was going on around us. So that's something I remember. And then when I ask people about him, it's always, like how he was like a very likable person. Yeah.
So you remember that he wanted you guys to get along. He wanted you and your brother to get along.
Absolutely.
Just with that, has that influenced your relationship with your sons or your children? Period.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Them getting along is paramount for me. So because I look at it like that's your tribe, and if we got to be able to depend on each other. So that's one thing I think I was really good about is when they had conflict, I never solved a conflict. I used to always, I'm big on ownership of your relationship. That's your relationship with your brother. That's your relationship with your sister. You guys figure it out. Now, if it's something that is out of control, then that's when I step in. But I've always made them take ownership of, and I think it has helped them to just form this bond where they get along pretty good because we don't get in. That's one thing. Like they don't even come and tell me at this point if they mad with each other. I don't even know. I would tell you now. I've never seen them be mad with each other, but I'm pretty sure they have. I just don't get involved with that ownership of their relationship is, and so yeah, that probably have stemmed from my dad, like teaching, like y'all got to get along because that's all y'all got. And my brother right now, he lives by that. Like that's his motto is like, he's very protective over like me and my kids because of the bond that our dad had kind of formed for us. So yeah,
that's such a good way to kind of like teach your children. It reminds me of kind of like the way with my kids. I don't have, of course, children now, but my students, whenever they do have conflict, I don't know if every teacher does this, but I kind of like sit back to see like how they're gonna like resolve it.
Absolutely.
Like you said, like if it's something that I feel like they can't, then of course I'll step in. But there's plenty times where maybe a child, and I have second graders, they'll come to me and they'll be like, Miss Jones, yada yada yada, she did. And I said, so what did you say? Do you think you can? What you telling me? Can you go back and tell that person? And they'll look. Sometimes they'll be like, but it's kind of like, no, friend, you don't need me for everything, right? I'm here to help facilitate, move on, help, whatever. But you guys can solve that yourselves.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you have to give the kids that power to know that that resource to say, you have to give them permission to understand that it's okay. And then you just teach them how to maneuver in conflict. Like that was the main thing for me was if you guys can learn how to maneuver with people that you love so much, the world won't stand a chance when conflict. And I see that with them, even, going to school and things, they never really been in trouble and things because I think they was really good about either avoiding conflict or having conflict in a way where the other party couldn't be mad with them, so because that is huge in life, especially as African Americans. They already think we hostile and those type of things. So just teaching that added benefit of conversation and togetherness, it's to the point now they kind of make me sick because it's like they can huddle up together and notice like they're probably talking about you. And you don't really know. Then you be like, what y'all talking about? And everybody like laughing or whatever. But then at the same time, I like love it because that's something I didn't have growing up too. So it's like seeing them really, I envy that relationship on such a great level because it's something that I probably longed for growing up, is having, siblings with me and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. You grew up, would you call yourself I know you're not an only child, but there was a part of your life where you were kind of like an only child, right?
Yeah, well, I definitely function. I guess you could say I was the only child because I was the only child that didn't have my mom and dad. And so I had to really kind of lean on my cousin's mom and dad's, moms to kind of give me that guidance. So yeah, I definitely function as an only child. Yeah.
No, I was telling his name is the person that I interviewed before you is named Mel as well. And I was like, he's an only child as well. And I said, we are special. Like, I think there's a special thing about people who are only children. And so I know that you have siblings, but there is a kind of like an only child type
absolutely
life you grew up having. So I was like, no, I feel like we're very appreciative of friendship and connection. And I feel like I see that in you as well. Like,
absolutely.
Say that people who have siblings don't appreciate the connection. I even might say they might take advantage or not appreciate it as much. But Right? Do you agree?
Yeah, probably for granted. Yeah, take it for granted. It's like
Yeah.
I have this, and it's there, and it's always going to kind of be there. And when you don't have something, you do tend to. I don't know. I always say when you can choose your family, like
Mm-hmm.
the friends that you choose to be family. To
Yeah.
me, that's a more special bond because it's a choice, and that
Yes.
means I'm choosing you, you choosing me every day. Whereas your siblings, you don't have a choice. I mean,
That's true.
whether you like them or not. So to me, it's always more powerful. Anything that you can choose is more powerful, right? So I just think that it's for me, like children that I have been involved with and people that's I'm close to, like, I have 10,000 moms that have kind of taken me under their wing.
Right.
When we're choosing each other, it's special. It's just something to me. It's more special when you're choosing me, saying, you know what, it's something about you that I want you to be a father figure to me, or I want you to be a brother to me. To me, it's like a marriage, if you will. It's a choice every day. Like you choose this every day. Whereas when my kids, when they're mad with me, they can't choose another father.
That's
I
true.
can't choose another child. It's
Yeah.
yeah. So no, I definitely agree with that statement.
Wow. So one of the reasons why I chose to have an interview with you is because of this. And I think I've told you this before. One thing that stood out to me, you being the amazing father that you are, is so you are not married to your children's mother.
Right. Yeah.
Right? And it's been a while, right?
Yeah.
I just remember watching and observing the fact that you were not just a weekend dad.
Right.
And I think you might have said this out of your mouth, or I just noticed it, but you might have said this. But you was like, no, we paraphrasing, we both had these children. And so, no, I'm not going to be a weekend dad. You going to have them 1 week and I'm going to like whatever, however you guys work that out. But I know that weekend dad was not the option for you.
That's not where it was at for me. Nah. No.
Why?
Well, in part because I didn't grow up with my parents. So I knew the effect of not having all of that. I knew that so me taking away, because there was an opportunity where I could have fought for custody and I could have got it. Like and but no, like I knew the effect. I fought for them. It would have been easier for us to fight for custody. And no, I fought that I knew how it felt to not have a mom, not have a dad. And that was really more my fight, was for them to be able to have that experience despite us getting a divorce. Um, I understood that. I just understood that was paramount, and that also meant that I was going to have to stand up and be a real man about working with their mom. And that was really it. It stemmed from I don't want any kid to feel that pain, but definitely not my kids. I didn't want them to feel that void when they didn't have to. So I was too conscious about that. That to me, that would be like ridiculous. So the fight, it was worth the fight. It was worth that stability that they have, having a mom and having a father. Yeah, there was really no option to me. Like, what you mean I can't see my what? No, okay, we'll see about that. And that was probably one of the best fights I ever fought in my life, was to make sure that I was going to be. And then also with that, when you're a weekend parent, you can't have the influence that you need to have on your kids that you might want or whatever. I got boys who I'm trying to make men, and I'm trying to make them, be fathers one day, husbands one day. I have a daughter who I want to show how a man's supposed to treat you.
Right.
And it's not that he should treat you like that every weekend. It should be an everyday thing that, I'm here no matter what.
Wow.
That's important for a young woman to know that their father is there no matter what. No matter if it's your mom's house, and no matter where you at, because I'm so present, that you can call me whenever. And so even with the week to the week thing, we had to learn that to have access with the kids should always be able to have access to whatever parent that they need access to. So if it's a daddy thing and my son needs to talk to me, or my daughter wants to talk to me because she need it, some parents be like, "It's my weekend," and no, it was like, no, if you with me and you need your mom because you're going through a girl thing, you have access to your mom. You can go stay with her. Like, that was a process of us doing that, but like that was the other layer of you need to have access to whatever parent that you need in that moment. Because I'm not a mom. That's something that I'm not, and I don't even know how to be a mom. I don't do hair. I don't, certain things that that's not my forte. If I had to, I mean, I have had to do it a couple of times, but why take that from her mother? Like, to me, it just don't make sense. Why would I take, that experience away from your mom? Even if she had to come to my house to do your hair, like, I'm not going to take those experiences away from your mom. So yeah, that was something. And you've seen it from the ugly to
Right.
just where we are. So it didn't start that way, but
Like
yeah, definitely right.
and time, healing wounds. Yeah.
Yes.
It's good. It's good the way you guys co-parent today.
Yeah, absolutely.
Admirable. No, I was thinking about while you were talking about doing hair. I was thinking about the one time my father did my hair. I guess my mother was, I don't even know what she was, probably at work or something. And I was like, what is this? I remember the apartment we were living in. So I probably had to be, it was before 9, probably in between 7 and 9. And I was
like never again.
Ponytail and trying to brush it.
Well, thank God that you had like a significant amount of hair, so he can at least get it in a ponytail. Because you would have like a little short, something like you've really been messed up.
No, for real. No, but I like that you mentioned you never wanted a child to feel, what was the word? You never want them to feel
that abandonment feeling. Yeah, to feel like they're not, that they feel alone, parentless.
And you mean that because you raised other children.
Absolutely.
That were not yours.
Yeah, absolutely.
Why did you do that?
I think again, especially when I was a principal in the middle school, it was like a mission. It was ministry for me to pour out to children. And I think that the ones that I connected to on, there were different levels, those that I've had to, help raise. It was all about showing them something different from their environment, if that make any sense. And like saying, hey, I see what you see over here, but that ain't all that it is to a Black man, sleeping with the different women and your mom, being beat up or whatever was going on. So having that, and also it was a way for me to give back to my children who has been sheltered from a lot of things, to be able to connect with other children that look like them, that had different circumstances, and to realize that stuff doesn't matter. Being a good person is what matter. And so, yeah, so it was ministry. It's still ministry. I still have a lot of, young people that I am very connected to and that I'm a father figure to. And I've slowed down a little bit. As my kids get older, I learned that I graduate when they graduate. So as they get older to certain levels, I stay right there. So it's kind of like if you're below that level of where I'm trying to take them, like I've learned that my patience is only as good as my patience with my children. So it's a seasonal thing of me being able to give both of them. And I think that they have been able to learn a lot of, they've been influenced as well, good, bad, but I've been able to see the connection, like for people to come from two different worlds and for them to connect, and they're like brothers and sisters, and like that's great.
That's because you created that environment.
I try to, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the people don't understand how influential adults are. Teachers, principals, parents, neighbors, aunts and uncles are they're very influential in a child's life. And they can end up literally following your footsteps.
Absolutely.
Whether negative or positive.
Absolutely.
And so, no, I'm sure what you have done, correct me if I'm wrong, did they understand what you were doing as a child when they were younger?
I think yes and no. I think that is that longing that they probably had for a father. I think they definitely knew that need was being met, but I don't think that as they're older now, like I think they understand because of the consistency. When you got somebody that's in 5th grade and now they're 22, 23 years old, and you're still kind of like rocking with them, and you're still like influencing their decisions, and you're still, when they're in some trouble, you're that person that they know, okay, let me call Pops. I know that he's not going to, like he's going to tell me what's right, but he'll get me out of it. So I think now we have those conversations with like we talking, they've been able to kind of tell me like, I just had one to tell me the other day about how he said, you don't understand like how much of a father you have been. Like, you are my dad. Like you have showed up in every way. and never missed a beat, and still like, and that admiration of that really is, it's like what the Bible says, if you go through this life and if you can just save one soul, to know that you influence somebody to do better, to do different, like that's where it's at. Like, and I have this thing about when God give you abundance of something, if you're not willing to, like, God give you abundance of love and you're not willing to give that love away, then you're greedy. And I just felt like, I felt guilty knowing that there are people who look like me that was growing up in the same situation, and I wasn't able to pour in them. And everybody, and I used to say, I wish I could clone myself so I could just, because there was so much need. But I feel like God gave me the kids that he put in my life that was kind of like a permanent fixture, where it was God ordained, because there was many that I could have, and most of them were the ones that everybody thought was like horrible, Matter of fact, out of it's only one that wasn't horrible, if you will. Everybody else was like cast out, and we prove a lot of people wrong, because I think when you change a person's environment, you can change their minds, right?
Yes.
So you've been able to see, you've been able to stay with me some nights or whatever, and you have peace, and you're not hearing the gunshots, and you're not, it's something. But then you always have to realize that connection of biology. There's always a need for that for some reason. On some level, you want to be connected to, where you came from. And so, navigating through that is, teaching them how to navigate, to say, just because you were born with somebody doesn't mean that's your destiny. You can't always, sometimes you gotta fix yourself up before you can try to fix mom and dad up, whatever. So it's been an experience. They don't know that they have poured more into me than I've ever poured into them. I mean, like, I've had some life lessons. I've learned things about that kids go through that I had no idea that kids were going through, like the resilience that they have. I've learned more. I think we have benefited a lot more than they have ever benefited, because it's been an eye opener of, it just shows you that love is bigger than what you could ever describe at the end of the day. Yeah.
Now, did you necessarily grow up in the type of environment that they probably grew up in?
Yeah, I think especially from New York, yes. Maybe a little worse, growing up. But even like growing up with, when I moved down here, your grandma, my great grandma, I mean, she had no business raising a teenager at that. You know what I mean? Like, she older. So there was a big, huge disconnect with, I mean, you my great grandmother, so we're talking like some generations in between us, like, and so she did the best she could, but it wasn't. I had to navigate even with that to understand how to interpret her harshness, like how she would talk. She was still in a place of the 1920s, where she was the underdog, and so it was a lot of navigation of fitting in. And understand, I had to learn how to meet my own needs with what I had, because trying to find it from her or anybody else at that point, just at the end of the day, it wasn't fair to her. She shouldn't have that raised a child that young. I mean, I think about that now that I'm older and I got kids. I'm like, I don't want that responsibility. I hope they stay healthy, and because it is like, it's a mind shift of, I got freedom. And oh no, I don't have freedom. And I felt like there was some resentment there, like, oh, I gotta, thank God grandma was a type who was raising everybody kids anyway. But I'm just saying, like, that was, I was smart enough to understand that I wasn't getting what I needed, like, and I was able to stay individualized and, okay, like, no, I need a hug. Like, I need somebody to tell me that I'm proud of me and stuff like that. And I had to find that in her to see, like, when she was proud of me, because grandma was about, she just came from a different place in life where that disconnect, it's like now with the kids, their lingo and their slang, grandma would think that would be disrespectful. Whereas, you kind of just know, no, it's not disrespect, it's just, or whatever. So, yeah, so I think that's why I got an old school spirit and a new school soul, because I grew up with women. I've learned a lot from her. And I've learned to respect the place that she came from. Like, you can't knock a person experience, right? So I think that's where that comes from.
Right. I feel like your experience with her definitely, I'm sure, creates a special bond with the children that you
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
you bring into your life, or you're in their lives, as well as your own children.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Right? You can kind of,
Absolutely.
how it is to feel a certain way,
Absolutely.
treat it a certain way. And so you're like, in your head, like you stated before, I don't want anybody to ever feel like that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
I don't want to be crying, okay?
Don't cry. Don't cry.
No, but I also appreciate many times when you give me insight to our family. But then also, because I'm like, oh, you act the same. You act like this too for a reason.
Yeah.
But on another note, next question is, what are some joys that you get from raising your own children? What are the joys of raising your children?
Oh man, I think that every stage of so parenthood, it's so subjective. Let's say that first. Like some people really dig it, like that's their thing. Some people just go through the motion of it. I dig it. So and maybe because I have a degree in psychology, that I'm just very interested in the development of kids. So like every stage bring a different type of joy, and every stage brings a different type of pain. But the joy has been me. I'm kind of weird. Like I like what I created, and I love seeing it grow. I love seeing that legacy of these are some Joneses here. These, like that outpour of love that you get to influence your own children. Like I just enjoy every stage. I never was a parent who was like, like their mom, she's like kind of like, what am I gonna do now that they're getting older? And for me, I prepare for every stage. I understand that when you turn 13, that I'm not gonna be the most influenced person in your life. I understand that. So I'm able to kind of embody that a lot and say, this is what you're supposed to be doing. You're supposed to be changing and want to. So I like the joys of just seeing every stage, and every time we get past a stage, it's like check mark. Okay, success. And for me, the joy has been the challenge of being a parent. It challenges me to be a better person. So I have enjoyed. Now, do I want to go over what I want to go over and do it all over again? Like, no, I think that you go around of it and then it's like, woo, like, but I can say that I've enjoyed watching them grow up and seeing the persons that they have become, their own little personalities, and their own, so it's been very rewarding.
I was talking to my other cousin that I had a conversation with. I was like, how is it hard trying to evolve with them at every stage? Because I feel like I've had that situation just with my own mom, right? Trying to take myself out of it and looking like it got to be kind of sometimes frustrating or challenging to see children go through different stages, but you also got to go through the same stages too. So they're, babies, toddlers, adolescents, and then teenagers and young adults and adults. And it's like, oh, wait, I got to change again. I got to evolve with them again, because you don't want to be the parent, right? That is still in this toddler stage when they become teenagers, right?
Yeah, definitely. So when kids are first born and up until they're about 11, 12, maybe 11, you are their manager. You manage everything that go on with them. Right. You manage what they wear, what they do, not who. But then there comes a stage around 12, 13 that they still need you to like manage them, but indirectly. But as they get closer to the teenager, you have to be able to switch from manager to guider, because now they want to manage their own lives. And they just want you to guide them. And I think a lot of times parents, we miss that mark right there.
Yeah.
I missed it with my first one. Like, I can just remember like one day seeing him, he got a girlfriend, and I'm like, his attitude was like, I missed the whole mark. I'm like, I don't like you. Like, I think I didn't like him for 2 years. I mean, seriously, I was like, I loved him to death, but I was like, because I didn't prepare myself for that change. And he started looking like a young man, and the girlfriend was just important to him. And it wasn't that I care about those things, it was that I didn't prepare myself for this stage. So with the last two, I've been able to be a lot more cognizant to say, okay, because the kids hurt your feelings now if you ain't prepared for it. Like they can hurt your feelings because it's a love that runs so deep. But yeah, I think that definitely, it's difficult if you don't prepare yourself for the realities of it.
It's so funny. I can only compare it to my kids, my students, because they are my kids for a certain amount of time, right? And I have these 10 months of, I'm going to say, sorry, parents, 10 months of helping to raise them along with y'all.
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking about a particular child who, she, as the year goes on, they just mature, right? And I'm like, she doesn't come and hug me anymore. She says, of course, good morning and stuff like that, but it used to be like, and then now, you know, she just, one, I've seen her like blossom and open up and talk to other children, whereas she wasn't before. And I'll be like, so the other day I was in my feelings, I was like, hi.
Right. Come give me some love. Come on.
She like, yeah, all right. But no, I can definitely understand it to a certain extent that you have to, and then there's the other side where I constantly remind my children that they're growing, right? And so I'll say, you guys will be in third grade next year. You got to know this, and some of them will go, no, we want to stay here. And I'm like, you gotta grow.
You gotta go. That's right.
They'll be like, you gotta go and grow.
That's it. Yeah, you gotta go and grow.
You gotta, even as a teacher, you have to develop a sense of detachment in a certain way.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
So we talked about some joys, and what are some challenges though? What are some challenges in raising your children?
I think that being a parent alone is challenging because there's no book, and figuring it out. I think the challenge, if you have multiple kids, for me, that word fair, you know, like, because fair is not equal when you're a parent. So if you are truly developing and raising people and not possession, but you really understand that you're responsible for a person and not that they're your property, because you hear that in our community a lot. That's my child. That's my child.
Say that. I'm being Ruth now. Wait, say that again.
That they are people and not possession. Okay. Because you'll hear, and I'm sure as a teacher, especially in elementary, you probably hear, that's my child, that's my, you know, and they put a possession over the child. But no, that's a person, that's a small person that we're growing up. And I try to, so when you're dealing with people, right, you have to deal with them based on who they are. And so that means you might have an overall rule, but if you know that this child here struggles with certain things, you gotta, and to me, that's a challenge because I know what my last two, that ain't fair, that ain't fair, that ain't fair. That's their favorite. But then I have to teach them, but it wasn't fair last month when I had to help you with blah, 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 blah. Now this month I have to help her with blah, blah, blah. I think me having to get out of that mindset, growing up in poverty, people, they are treated like possession. I mean, you know, that's my child, that's my, and me having to convert over when I have my own kids to be consciously, I'm developing people. I don't want you to feel like a thing. Because see, a thing, you'll cuss a thing out, right? You'll talk to a thing like it's a thing. And I felt like growing up, that's kind of how it was. Like, because we were your possession, you could treat me the way you want. Well, no, I've tried to develop with my kids that you are a person. So even me as your father, I owe you an explanation. Like, if you don't understand something, I owe you an explanation. If you don't agree, that's your problem. But if you don't understand, I feel that I'm obligated to teach you there again, because you are a person. So if I say, no, you can't go somewhere, and if you ask me why, then I'm going to give you an explanation. And it may be simple as I just don't feel good about it, but you are a person. So that's a big turnaround from the way I grew up. So it's been more challenging breaking some old habits of how I grew up and developing some new ones that were more healthy than the way I grew up or whatever. So,
What is with that said, what have you taken from the way you grew up and applied it to the way you raise your children?
Oh, definitely. Morals and manners. Like grandma was huge on the manners. And one thing that grandma used to say to me is, you know, in school, I was a pretty popular school kid. I mean, I always had pretty good grades. And she would always say, nobody cares about how smart you are or how good looking you may be, but people will always remember how you treat them. And as an adult, I took away from that, knowing that she came in a time where she couldn't get an education like she wanted to, where, you know, it wasn't really, her being a beautiful woman, a lot of times they would get taken advantage of and all those things but her thing is they would always remember how you treat them. And I think that is I'm huge on that. Like, I don't like kids to be picked on. I think that's why I went into special ed,
Right,
because
right.
of that. You know, I'm very
Yeah.
defensive. My
And
kids, I'm big on that. Like, you're not gonna,
bully? No.
yeah, absolutely. We're just not gonna do it.
No.
We're not gonna pick on people. And that has really, my foundation of a parent definitely comes from my childhood. Cause there's some good that I could walk away from with the strength that I have, you know, so I apply a lot of that mannerism, especially. I'm huge on respect. Like,
Mhm.
I got three things that's like deal breakers for me, and
Right,
respect is definitely one of them. Like, we're not gonna be disrespectful, because I grew up in a time where you couldn't be disrespectful. So there's a way,
right.
but giving them their voice was the challenge, because
Yeah.
the way the grandma would do it back in the day is children were seen and not heard, right?
Yep.
But I want you to be seen and heard, but I want you to, but when I'm hearing you, you got to be in your place or whatever. So definitely, I think I just kind of have, I always say I'm grandma 2.0, like,
Right.
like, cause I got a lot of old school, like, way, but it's just a lot of new school flavor with it. Like, you know, cause this stuff is not bad what I was taught.
And this is the thing,
Yeah,
and this is tough. I mean, this can apply to both mothers and fathers, but we're talking to the fathers, and hopefully many fathers will listen to this. But you don't have to. You can unlearn behaviors from the way you were raised,
absolutely.
and teach differently. Like, you don't have to, because you know you hear that a lot. Like, I was raised this way, so I'm
Yeah,
gonna do this, and I'm just like, but you don't have to.
you don't
That's
have
the
to.
thing.
Right,
You
right.
know when something doesn't like sit well with you, or
Mhm.
things could be done differently. So
Right.
yeah, you can. I'm all for unlearning
Mm-hmm.
and keeping the things that help the child or help your children, but also like, okay, so that didn't really work for me. What can I do? Like, what's something else
Right.
I can do to get my point across, rather than I don't know, spanking or whatever. Like, allowing a child to,
Yeah.
like you said, be heard and seen. That's okay. Like, a child, it's a person, a human, and they
Absolutely.
should be heard and seen. So.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I think with parenting, you have to be very cautious about how you want to raise your child. I mean, I think it's like, it's just something that you have to really be cautious about. Even like I rarely spank my kids. Like, I can probably just remember the few times that I did, and it's when they were younger.
Mm-hmm.
And I had this philosophy where, you know, when I was younger, we just get whooping for everything you did. Well, that becomes not non-effective at some point. If you give me the highest punishment, then there's nothing to work up to, right? So I had this thing where if I did have to spank them,
Right.
it was a progression, and we would talk through it. Like, I would say, okay, now, like, you know, first we're gonna talk about it, and then if
So
we
that's
said we have
torture. No.
understanding, yeah, then it's like, okay. Then
Right.
if it kept going on, I would let them know. All right, now, like, guys, now this the third time I've asked you. Now the next thing, the only thing I know to do, because you're not listening, is
Right.
I'm gonna have to spank you.
Right.
So I think even in the spankings that they had, that the few that they did get, the anticipation killed them, because it was like, then they couldn't blame it on me, because
Mm-hmm.
I was teaching them that your behavior
Yeah.
is dangerous, and if this is going to get your attention. And what they learned in that was, we ain't got to do all that for you to get attention. Like,
Right.
I'm just going to do it. That so it was like but it was a teacher. And I would tell them, after I would spank them a few times, I would say, I don't like doing this. And like, I would tell them, I don't like I feel like you're giving me no, I don't like, even when I punish them now, they're, you know, 16 and 17. If I have to take something away or whatever, because they're not getting, like, my whole thing is, I don't like doing this. Like, don't put me in a position to do things. I don't like punishing you. Like,
Right.
that's not my goal in life. Is the, and what can you do with that as a kid? Like, they know I mean that from my heart. Like, I don't like punishing them, because I want them to be people. But then I have to also teach them in the world that some consequences do cause for,
Yeah.
some things do cause for consequence, whatever. Yeah, but I'm conscious about that, because I think that, you know, beating the kid can make them more aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so it's like, then I'm an
I
aggressive
agree.
kid, and you mad because I'm fighting, but I'm fighting because you don't beat me so much that I don't. These punches don't hurt.
Right.
These
What you
punches don't
said?
hurt when fighting. Yeah, I'm saying, like, you know, if you fighting all the time, it's like, you know, I mean, if you get a whooping all the time, you start fighting all the time, because the punches don't hurt as much. It's like, I don't got conditioned to being beaten on.
You right.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you know, I was just talking to someone not too long ago. I've never been like a person who's like, yeah, you beat him if you need to. Like,
Mhm.
I've never, no, because I'm like, so the person I was talking to was talking about how they were raised. That's what their mom did, right?
Mhm.
And I guess that, you know, if they have to with their own child, that's what they do. And I'm like, but this is the thing. They would go, yeah, she did what she had to do, right? And I got a lot of whoopings. And I was like, but did you learn your lesson though?
Right.
Because my thing is like, you shouldn't have to, if it's something that's being done all the time, ongoing, it's like, in my head, it's not working.
Yeah, that means it's not effective.
It's not effective. And that's
Absolutely.
what I was trying to explain. Like, you saying you needed it, but did you?
Right.
People could argue that, but I'm like, it wasn't effective if the person had to keep doing it.
Right. If you had to keep getting beat all the time. Yeah, absolutely.
But then
Now, one thing that
the person I am today, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah. Now, one thing I was very cautious about too is I think me and Bree were just talking about this yesterday in the car. The one time she can remember me actually hitting her is I popped her in her mouth because she spit on her brother at a young age. But I was very cautious about not putting my hands on my daughter. And some people don't agree with that, like, and I don't really care. Like, for me, the image of me putting my hands on her, I am too big to be putting that's how I always looked at it. Like, I would not have you to fear me in that way. And with girls, it's a little different too, because disappointment is like being disappointed in her is like getting a beating pretty much. I mean, like, but like, that was her mom. That was one of the things that showed y'all mom, like, if you want to like spank her or something like that. But for me, I was very cautious about like, I didn't want that image in her head that's what love looked like. I wanted to be gentle with her,
right.
A lot more gentle. I want her to know that I'm not the person that's gonna beat up on you. I'm the person that'll beat somebody up for you, type thing. And that's something she was just telling me, like, just yesterday we just talked. She's like, I really kind of appreciate that, like, because me and her could talk about a lot of stuff or whatever. Right. Because anyway, the boys, like, I've never had to really spank them, but if they were gonna get a spanking, I always say, like, I took care of the boys, kind of thing. Their mom was very awesome about that, like. Right. You know, she ain't never tried to be the dad. If it's a problem, she don't mind calling. To this day, you need to get your son. But yeah, I think it's like cautious decisions that you make as a parent. Like, what is it that you want to display to your child? Even with my boys or whatever, I always told them to think with your head and not with your fist. And so you can think yourself out of any situation if you're smart enough. Right. When you fight, it should be because you need to fight. We got too much fighting going on in this world for you to be added to the list of an angry black man or whatever. Like, so being cautious about those things and like really talking to them about your expectations. And then you have to also model the things too. They have to see. Because my daughter would have seen me with different women beating on them, then it wouldn't be effective, right? Or my sons see me disrespecting their moms, that wouldn't be as effective. Like, so when I'm teaching them, they see how I interact with their mom, and they understand that we're not together, but they understand I still have a high regard of respect. Like, all that stuff is cautious decisions that you have to make. And
the thing is, I'm thinking about just what I'm around daily, because where I teach, fighting is a big thing. We have parents who are like, they hit you, hit them back. Do whatever you got to do. That's what we are dealing with every single day. We got children that do not know any other way. They don't know how to resolve problems just by talking, communicating, and articulating how they're feeling. So that like, teaching is hard. Just like I'm sure like parenting can be challenging. It's like, okay, so yeah, we're supposed to teach, but guess what? We're teaching the whole entire child.
Yeah, absolutely.
How to talk and communicate and express their feelings without using their hands. So yeah, but you also had me thinking about my dad. My dad was like, I think I remember just one time, literally, when my dad like spanked me, and he never did it again. Never did it again. But he would be like, but I'll kill somebody.
Yes, sir. And I believe he would. I believe Uncle Jesse would.
Be like, no, but do you remember that time when he thought somebody was
I do.
What was it? No, I feel like you could tell this story.
It was something about, he thought that it was something that he thought with a dude. I don't know if like he thought you were dating somebody. He heard that somebody hit you. Like, he thought you were dating a guy, and somehow he got this word that you got that the boy was hitting you, and he's like, call Jessica to find out whatever. And he had this whole story. And then when I found, you was like, what? Like, I ain't even dating. Like, I don't know who he got it from. All I know is he was like, get the car ready. I'll give you some gas money. He's like, call. And I think he was trying to call you and he couldn't get you. And I think you was at work or something. And then like, I think when I finally talked to you later on, like you was like, what? Like, and he was like, yeah, like I said, I think you got the wrong information. But he was so serious. Like he was like, yeah, I get the gas man. He calling people like, I'm gonna need some money. Like I'm like, he like, cause they don't hit Jessica. They don't hit Jessica. like okay, like, and I was kind of worried too because I'm like, okay, yeah, we might have to go up there, but then I'm like, nah, like Jessica, like I can't imagine her being with somebody that's putting that. But yeah, he was ready though. He was ready.
Oh, rest in peace. Look. Mm-hmm. I hear you.
Yeah, he was ready.
Like that, like I'll kill somebody.
God. Yeah.
But do you think it's ever a situation or circumstance where a father cannot be in the child's life? Like, is there ever any excuse?
So I'll say yes and no. I'll say no and yes. How about that? No, I think that anything worth is fighting for. But I do know that I've seen situations where some guys are not as fortunate as I was, like where, you know, because it do take two people to tangle in that situation, and it takes two big grown people. You have to be grown to be a parent. You got to be grown. You got to be a man and a woman. You can't be a boy or girl. You have to be a real stand-up guy, stand-up woman, and put the kids first. And you do see where sometimes some women, that empowerment of having a child, like making it difficult. Or some men have told me, you know, I've tried and I tried and I tried, and she just keep like, it gets so unbearable that they feel like it's just better not to deal with that. Now, I'll say this now this is just me speaking, as Paul would say, this is I, not the Lord. I just can't imagine like not fighting for it. Like, because at some point you could put that woman to the side and she could be mad, but you go to court and you get stuff in black and white, and then that way if she, you know, so no, there's not an excuse, because now the courts are so much more liberating to joint parenthood. I mean, that's their preference now, is when you go into the table, it's not automatically a mom thing. It's if you standing there, they're trying to work with you. So yes and no. Like, it's like I get it to some level, but then I look at it like this too. If you can't stand the mama and you feel that they're not a good, then why would you leave your kids in it? So if nothing else, fight for that, for that reason or whatever. So, you know, now I do understand some women who have to protect their children if the man is not a good, you know, so it's different. It's circumstantial, but just in general, you having a child and you make a executive choice that you just going to be a weekend dad, or, you know, I'm just going to pay child support and let the mom deal with the child. Like, that money does not compare to the experience that you can give that child, whatever. So, I mean, I do know there's circumstances where sometimes it gets ugly, and I say it like this: only the strong can survive, or whatever. But you have to be adamant. I look at it like, if you're gonna fight for anything in the world, you should fight for that you created. And if you lose, at least you said you fought. You fought, do everything that you can. But I've seen some guys be like, you know what, it's just better not to have to deal with her. But my thing is, you were dealing with her when you had the baby. So, you know, it's just cautious decisions again. It's all about choices and decisions at the end of the day. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a situation that I know about, and I was trying to talk to the dad and just trying to get his understanding, trying to see where he was, because his child was longing for his presence, and so I understand, like, to a certain extent, life, you're trying to get yourself together, you're trying to work, whatever. But I'm like, can you just get a call?
Yeah.
It don't take, you could 5 minutes. You know what I'm saying? If you can't see your child every day, I'm just saying, for whatever reason, you could call, right? You have a phone. I'm sure you're texting someone. You could just be like, hey, son, like, how you doing? 5 minutes?
Right. Yeah. And with technology, it really eliminates excuses for you not to come. Even like when my kids are with their mom or whatever. Now, you know, it's funny because we've gotten so used to, like, they here with me when now it's kind of like they're older, wherever it makes sense that they need to be at. You know, like, you working, it's cause, like, but I enjoy my time off. Like, I've become very accustomed to that. Right. But if 2 days go by which is very rare that I don't talk to one of them to know. If you talk to one, it's like you talk to all of them.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's a void that I feel like as a dad or whatever. If 2 days go by and nobody has called me, it's something that just springs up like, let me call. And I'm usually saying, so I know y'all phones aren't off, I'm paying for it. I don't understand like why, because
Right.
even in that, I think I would teach them like, like you are important to me. I want to know where you are. Like, even if you with your mom, not that she can't do it, but I still want to, if you're going somewhere, I still want it ran by me. So I'll know, because if the truth is something happened, I'm going to be the one that's going to get called first. I need to know what direction I'm going in or whatever. So it's just, yeah. So I can't even imagine, because it's too like FaceTime me. It's so many avenues that you really kind of do take the excuse away. Unless the mom just won't let you talk to the child.
Right.
But picking up that phone, matter of fact, FaceTime them. Zoom them. Anything that would, gosh, I can only imagine how that could, change a child's life.
For sure. For sure. Yeah. So I do have just one more question. Once again, this video, I don't know, maybe I'll drop this one on actual Father's Day. I like I said, I admire your relationship with your children, just how you have not only raised your own but raised a community of them.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? Like, I feel like that's how it's supposed to be. We're the village. I tell my parents and coworkers all the time. I remember one time I was in grad school, and I can't remember the class, but one of the girls was giving a presentation at the time, and I remember her saying, "My job is to only teach." Right? That's what I remember her saying. I was sitting, we were all watching her, and she was like, "My job is to teach," and yada yada yada. I'm not a mother. I'm not this. I'm not that. And I was like, I remember leaning over to the girl that I was sitting next to, going, "I hope she never teach my child."
Right.
I mean, and somebody might feel differently, but I was like, no. See, the thing is, when we chose to go into this profession, first of all, you don't even just teach when you get to the schoolhouse.
Right.
How about
absolutely.
That? Right? You are literally a counselor, an aunt, a grandma, maybe, depending on your age, a older sister, a lawyer, a cook. Okay. You like, come on, no. Yeah. That's so in my head I was like, no, I think she got the wrong idea of teaching us, but she gonna learn.
I think the colleges, they need to update their curriculum too, because a lot of times in college they leave that part out. They get so caught on the curriculum, but in order to get to the curriculum, you got to care. And one of the things I used to always do with my students when I used to teach is, I think I had so much success with them is, again, they are people. So I understood that in middle school, in high school especially, they're going to take their time to do what they want to do. So what I will always do is give them the time. If I know you're going to talk during class, I'll give you 5 minutes before class while I'm preparing. That's your time to talk. If we can get through this lesson and everybody kind of understand that last 5-10 minutes, and people say, but you're wasting time. No. I'm wasting time every time I'm saying, stop, Jessica. Because, sit down. But if I give you an opportunity to, now they're again showing that ownership. Now you had your time. You come to school to learn. If I'm giving you 5 minutes to, especially on Mondays, it was big on Mondays in middle school, give them 10 minutes, that homeroom time, like, because they got to talk about what's going on the weekend, and then you teach them it's the right time to do this web. And I had a lot of success because I integrated that, because you learn so much listening anyway. So I taught math, and a lot of times I would hear what they're saying, the logo. Then I would do, when I did word problems, I would make them very relevant to what they might have been talking about, So I think it's like that social emotional part is a huge part of, especially when you with needy kids that need that type of support or whatever. So if you go into it, now I've had so much backlash on how connected I can be with students, even the ones that I wasn't like connect. Like I have such a connection where I just always treat every kid like their moms. It didn't matter what color they were. Like everybody's a son and a daughter to me. I don't mind. I'm the kind of person that will get on my knees if you crying and wipe your eyes, and we're gonna work through it as I'm suspending you. We're gonna work through this. Yeah, we're gonna work through it, because even in suspension, that's the highest thing that I can do, right?
Yeah.
So why would I just suspend kids? No, I'm gonna teach you why you're being suspended. I want you to understand, learn. Like a lot of people just know, because then they're gonna keep getting suspended. If you don't, then I can't hold you accountable until I've taught you. Like God don't hold us accountable for things we don't know, right? Yeah. So once they know, they can't use that anymore. Now, didn't I tell you that you can't use that kind of language? Right. Oh, my bad, Mr. It's one of those things where you have to really be immersed. And if you don't want to deal with people on that type of levels, then teaching is not, that's not, because here the thing is, the most powerful influence that a child has is their parent. So when a parent, if they tell the child how to behave in such a way that's not appropriate, that's a battle, because now you got to really go to the parent to get their minds to change in order for the child. And I've always said that, like, you got to work with the parents. You got to work, because who am I to tell a child? I don't care if I am a principal. If your mom told you to walk out the class if you got to pee, I don't hold a candle. So a lot of times I call the mom and say, look, mom, what I need you to do is, you could tell your child whatever you want, but you forgot a comma in the but. Like, walk out of the classroom, comma, but you probably gonna get suspended. There's a consequence of, and why would you want your child to be suspended for? But then when that parent mind change, it's like now the child, because you got to get that parent. And I think those are the things we don't want to deal with, but it's a community. It is a community. I mean, you have to be honest with the kid and be honest with the parent. Now, one thing I don't say is, I don't tell them how to act. I'll say, we don't act like that here. Because what I learned is it's judgmental when you telling somebody their norm is not normal. Like, that's like me telling you, don't pray at night. Like, that's your norm. Like, that's not, or I might say, well, Jessica, look, you don't need to be praying so loud that like the neighbors are complaining. I might say, but I can't tell you not to. And it's the same thing with these kids, when you have to know their norm, and then you have to challenge the norm in a positive way by saying, look, here, you can't curse like that or whatever, blah, 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 because they don't know. Like, they don't know or whatever. And I think that has been the most rewarding part of being a parent and being an educator, is teaching. To me, that's the most important life lesson anyway, is teaching you how to act. Because if I can teach you how to act, then I can teach you anything if I can teach you how to act. But if I can't teach you how to act and you talk in the class, you ain't learning it anyway. It just don't make sense when you think about it, right?
No, like you said, if you're going to teach, you got to care.
Yeah, you got to care
about that whole entire child.
Yeah.
There's no way you're going to get through a lesson if you got to build relationship.
Because they don't like you, they ain't gonna listen to you. That's just bottom line through it, right?
Seriously, you gotta start putting these things on shirts now at this point.
Yeah, that's what we're gonna have to start doing then.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
But no, that's.
I love your hat too.
Thanks.
Be the dream.
I got this the other day from I was like, can I have one? To my
friend. I like that. Be the dream.
The children. I was just, when you were talking about, talking to the parent, telling the parent, well, they can't act like this here. Same. There was a child giving very unwanted behavior, and I said, the parent told her, kind of like, to do whatever she wants. What you got to do. And I spoke to her, and I was like, let me tell you, friend. I call them friends. I'd be like, let me tell you, friend. If you continue to do this, you won't get this. I said, I can't do what a parent does. I'm a teacher. But guess what? There's rules in my class, right? So we go on trips. We get prizes. I don't like to keep them from gym, because that's something that isn't built into their schedule. But I'm like, so if you do these things, you can't get this. I'm telling you now, okay? And I'm a parrot in my class. Like, I'm telling you, if you do this, I know mommy said this, but guess what? If you do this, you won't have this. You can't get this. You won't be allowed to participate in this thing.
Right.
So, we have an understanding, right, friend? Okay.
Yep. Because one of the things that you're teaching kids is that there's other authority figures in life besides your parent. And that's one of the things that was the life lesson, I think, with middle school kids was, I understand that, but, I'm responsible for, I'm the local parent, parentis loco. So if somebody come in and have a gun and I have to protect you, then that means that if I have to protect you, then that means I can correct you. And I used to always tell them that. So, and I would tell mom that, now when you drop them off, legally you're saying that you trust me as a parent or whatever. And I think having those conversations with parents, sometimes it goes back on their own experiences in school. It might wasn't the greatest, but when they see that you, even those parents, when they see that you care for their children, it makes because like you said, like, this is a perimeter in my classroom. Your mom don't run this classroom. And that's what you're teaching them, is that there's other authority, that mom can't show up everywhere and run everything. And so there again, as a parent, that's you really relinquishing your power. That's hard for some parents. It's not as hard for parents who are educators. My kids never came and told me anything about a teacher, because they'd be like, well, Miss Jones told me to shut up. I'd be like, how many times did she ask you to be quiet? Like, that would be my whole thing. And it always with Jamel, he'd be like, well, she asked me for, but don't come trying to tell me, because you know what be quiet means. So if it took her to tell you to shut up, then I trust that. Did you shut up? That's what I would ask. Well, yeah, but I'm mad because, she told. I said, I'm sure she was mad when she asked you to be quiet for 5 times. Because when you've been there, you understand children, you understand the dynamic, you understand that 95% of the teachers that they really are there because they care. I mean, like, and so I've always been like a big advocate of, I knew my child, and even the teachers that I might didn't care 100% for, I always supported them, because I understood the challenge of raising and teaching kids in the classroom, because that's what you're doing. You're raising and teaching them all at the same time. So I think educators, we have a little bit of more of an insight on the progression that go on in the classroom. You understand that no teacher just coming out saying, yelling or whatever it is. My kids never, I mean, they have told me stuff, but it was never like, oh, I want you to go do something about it kind of thing, because they understood that that's come from that grandma thing, where old school was that if a grown person says something, that you kind of sided with the grown person a little bit. And I think for me, it was always like, I'm not gonna go out here and embarrass myself, but I'm also, if you were wrong, my job is to correct your wrong. And if I had to talk to a teacher, I always did it without, and I would say, look, I know he taught blah, 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 but could you please like inform me next time, blah, 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 but never said, I mean, one teacher said, well, I apologize for telling me. I said, no, apologize, because I'm not funny like that about my kids, whatever. Like, your record shows that you're a great teacher. And so, no, you have my permission if that's what it takes, because I'm embarrassed that that's what it takes. So that's my thing is, and I think that she was a young teacher. She was like about to cry, I'm a principal. So she think, oh my God, like, I said, no, because if it take that much, then it says to me as a parent, I need to go back and speak to, because you should want to respond when someone is speaking to you in a positive manner. It shouldn't take somebody to be negative to you for you. So that means that's a personal thing. And that's what I'll do. I'll talk about, like, why does she got to ask you to be quiet 17 times? And, well, Jalen was the type that, like, she would say he could talk to the wall. I mean, he would just be one of those kids or whatever. And I didn't want to take away from his personality. So it was a balance of, when that teacher asks you to do something, you better pretend like it's me, or whatever. And I could always use, do you want somebody to do your daddy like that in the classroom? Well, no, sir. So I think we have a little bit of a leg on understanding the progression in school or whatever. You kind of say, okay, like, like, I've been there. I mean, I've been there, so I understand. And it takes me a lot to go there. So I just assume that that's the same thing for a teacher.
Yeah. Your children are definitely they're learning a lot from you. And they're definitely going to, I'm sure when they have children, take a lot of your values and morals and the way you do things, and definitely teach your children the same way, which is good. My last question is about legacy. We want to, as I was trying to get this, what's the scripture? You tell me. Is there a scripture that talks about laying up for the child, the parent laying up for the child? Like leaving something for the child.
Yeah, it is something about legacy. But I can't tell you the exact, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
You're good. I just want to know, how are you do you believe that parents should leave legacy, and if so, how are you doing that for you?
Absolutely. I think that that's the stamp that's going to matter, because we all going to die, right? And so like how we talk about grandma, sometimes, like, that's a legacy that she left. I mean, that when you look at like somebody like Grandma Sis, who she had the ability to bring people together. Look at how we all still can come together, like one, like, like how that came from like her legacy was family, like that you could do things. For me, my last name means a lot to me. It may be a common last name, but Jamel Jones means something to me. And so, yes, I talk about legacy with them all the time. I think I feel like that's how you minister once you're gone. Your legacy can speak a lot to you. And then if you set it up the right way, they would have to carry your legacy out the way that you would like for it to be. So I'm in the process of building a legacy for my kid. Like that is like I think when you hit, around 40, you start looking at, okay, like I'm about halfway through. And then you want to really start just kind of thinking about like, what am I leaving them?
Right.
And so legacy, I think as a man, I just think it's so important that your kids, they're not going to appreciate you when they're in this process, but when they become an adult, you want them to love you so that they want to help carry on that legacy, So like I look at Ra, and I watch how, his kids and stuff, and I see so much of myself in him, like how he, raised the kids, and even like we talk about legacy a lot and about, what that look like. To me, legacy is just not about money. Some people want the financial legacy. No, it's about what we stand for. Like, who are we? How do the world see us? To me, that's the legacy that I want to build on, is that we're good people and we've done good in the world, and hopefully we do amass money in the process, but as we're doing that, we're giving back. I think that legacy is it gives you comfort a little bit when you do leave. If I do die, I want them to have comfort in them, understand how much they were loved and how much they were cared for. All of those things is paramount to my legacy.
For sure. I'm all for people leaving tangible things.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Certain things, but I guess there's also that like emotional, spiritual, my dad used to say this I live by this. And, my dad didn't have much money, as we know, right? Didn't have much money, but one thing I do believe, I feel like he left just was, I feel like personally his love for people, right?
Absolutely.
What would I always say? We're not on this earth by ourselves. Right? God could have definitely been like, I'm gonna just have you here. That's it.
Absolutely.
He didn't do that. Like he created a whole bunch of people that we had to connect to, communicate with, get help from. And so I want to love people in a way that people see Christ through me. Like, I'm like, you know what I mean? And so I think my father's not here to tell that, but I want to say that he would, if he could put it into words and articulate, it would be to love Jessica, love other people.
Absolutely. And I think that's very accurate, because though he, like you said, he may have limited resources or whatnot, but the one thing that, if anybody who knows Jesse Jones, if they were to ask like what was the most prized possession, like you was his legacy, and the way he loved you in a way where he was not able to express it the way that he may want it to, because again, me and him was raised by the same person. So I understand. So I actually understand like the hardness that comes with that. Like, I'm not a naturally affectionate person. I am with my children, but like, just because I didn't grow up in an affectionate type situation, whatever, we learned to see love through if they were providing for you, that meant they loved you. Like that was kind of like, and they wanted you to appreciate that. And that was about it. It won't no hugs. And so but I know that you're like to him, it was like God did something great by giving him you. Like it's almost like he don't feel like he deserved that, to have a child. So like, I feel like his legacy definitely is love. Like the way that it never was unwavering. Like in his eyes, you could just do nothing wrong. Like, and that's most of the time, believe it or not, is how dads look at their daughters. Like it's just different. Like I look at Bree, and it's a different. And I think that was one of the questions, like maybe you had was gonna ask about, like the gender. Like
yes, look at you, pull it out.
Yeah. And so like Bree, like there's definitely a difference. And me as a man, how I raised my boys and I raised my daughter. And that was a challenge too, because Bree was like, oh, it's not fair, it's not. But now one thing I don't do is like with the dating thing, like if I said my boys could date at a certain time, like I didn't put that restriction on her. And only because she asked me not to. Like one day she was just crying, like, it's not fair. Like, you know, every boy that I try to talk to, they're afraid because y'all have scared them all off. And then I had to have a conversation with the family, say like, she has to have that experience. Like, you know, and it probably thought it would be unlikely for it to come from me. But that's why I think me preparing myself for, okay, if I'm open to understanding that she didn't, and she's really good about if she likes somebody to talk to me about it. So yeah, you do have to you gotta treat a girl like a girl, right?
Yeah.
You gotta treat, like with my boys, I am on them about working, like work. You gotta work. Bree, she works, but she knows that I'll take care of her before I'll take care of them, because she's a girl and God holds me accountable until she get married, that I am to, you know, love on her in that way.
Right.
So your dad, like, definitely, he had that down pat, to a point where I admired how much he like love you with it. Anybody you ask, I don't care who it is, if you say what was Jesse's most prized possession, hands down, because he talked about you everywhere you go. And that was his way of saying, it was almost like, I don't even feel like I deserve this kind of love, but you know what God gave me something that I can look. And he would always say, I think that's why he was so big on you being the best that you could ever be, because I think he lived vicariously through you. So you doing great kind of says, like my mom told me when I graduated from high school, and you know, my mom was on drugs and stuff, and she said to me, like, seeing you graduate with such high honors, something sparked in her head to say, I helped create that greatness. And if that means that there got to be something great in me. And it like changed a lot of her trajectory of where she went next in her life. And I think with your dad, like, he had enough in him. He understood that where his limitations, but he made sure that you didn't have those same limitations. Like, he trusted your mom with you. He understood that. It's like he told me one time before, I felt like I hit the lottery when I married Gwen. Like he understood that was a good woman. He understood that she was going to teach you the right way. And for him, he had confidence in that. Like, he knew without I shot it out, oh, she's going to get the best. So I think that...
he chose right.
Yeah. I think that parents do the best they can with what they got.
Right.
And if you have limitations, you do the best you can with what you have or whatever. And I think that that applies to all parents. I just think that the judgment of parents and stuff, I think sometimes we do the best we can with what we got. Some of us got more than others, and whatever. But it's not even about the money. It's really about the depthness of your heart for a person, whatever. So I think there's different forms of love, and then there's different eras of dads too. You know, that's the other thing is some dads stayed around back in the day, but they was there, but they weren't there. You know what I mean? They were there.
Yeah, physically.
Yeah, they were there, but they weren't. But it was an expectation to stay. You know, you got to stay or whatever, even if you're not happy. And I think that you got to look at the eras of where his father was at too, because things changed, and then men. You know, it's just a lot of stuff that have changed in that too. So
that's good. I thought I had one more. I thought this was the last one, but I have one more actually.
Okay.
We'll bring it to a close.
Okay.
What would you say to fathers around the world? Like, how would you encourage them?
I would definitely say that fatherhood it's undervalued in our Black community, but it is such a powerful force. And to be a father doesn't mean to be a husband. It doesn't mean to be a boyfriend. Like, you got to separate whatever relationship you might have with him. Like, that's me being not a good husband doesn't mean I wasn't going to be a good father, you know, like, and I think that if you understood the effect that it has on your children, I think that you would want to step up. Like, I think that it's just important. I shouldn't have to be raising other people's children. I shouldn't have to. Like, it shouldn't be that it's such a destitute of us doing this work that we haven't. It is important, and I know the world makes it that moms are so important. Moms are just important because they've had to take the task of handling this. If you're a man, you shouldn't want a woman to carry that burden on her own. I mean, like, that is your legacy. Is if you create a child, God expects you as the man to be the covenant of that child. Why are you giving that to the woman? She's the covering. I thought about that too when we talk about covering and covenant are two different things. So the covenant is between you and God, but the covering of that is, I'm protecting you from what God has given you. The woman shouldn't have to be making covenants with God. Like, that should be a man thing. It should be that you're still leading that family,
right?
because you understand that you are responsible for the covenant, the promise that you made with God. When you have a child, you're making a promise saying that I'm going to, and I think that we need to take that serious. And I would say to women, if you are not allowing your kids, like, man, I'm telling you, like, we just got to do better. It's so necessary.
Yeah.
It's necessary. It's a whole, it's a whole that a child or girl walks away with, wondering if they're good enough, you know, or, you know, like they finding their own protection, like, you know, and then you got guys who like, man, like we got a long way to go with that. Such a long way to go with that.
That's good. That's good. I feel like through this, I'm like, maybe I should do a, you know, women's relationship with their father or their, you know, parent.
It will also be kind of cool then maybe to get some mothers and some fathers and do like a nice little podcast with like just different perspectives of, because like I know what I'm saying, some of the stuff I know some women will challenge it and say, you know, whatever. And I would love to hear that challenge because I don't have that challenge. So like I'm just going off of what I've seen and what I've heard from different people perspectives. Now but I'll say this, that if you're a man and you got children and you all on the social media, you always flashing stuff, but you're not taking your kids, you need to sit down somewhere. I hate seeing men who brag about what they got and you're not taking care of your kids. Like you can't tell me nothing different about that. Like, because parenthood is sacrifice. It's all about sacrifice. And so I think it would be great to have just a ping, because I think we need to be educated on what's really going on out there. I mean, you know, because I may walk in a situation where I may date somebody and they have children, and I would love to just see the light of how does that work when you make a decision you don't want a man to be a part of, you know, whatever. Like some women do it, I do know, and I agree, is they protect their kids because you keep making promises and promises that you come in. And so sometimes women, you have to make those executive decisions, and that don't fall on the woman. That's on the man. And those are the things that probably the men don't say is you lied and said you was coming, and then the mom is left with the attitude and all that kind of
stuff. You
know,
the way my mother was set up, my mother she was pretty good. So yes, friends, crew, I'm calling y'all friends because I'm thinking about my kids. Crew, I love my father. I really do. But, you know, he had a problem. He had an addiction, which caused him to not be present all the time. And so, he made a lot of promises and didn't keep them. But my mother was very like, ask. She wasn't, she protected me, but it was like, ask. Okay, you'll see. Like she wanted me to see. Like she wasn't like, no, don't do that. Don't ask him. And because I don't want him to, and that's fine. If you do that, that's fine. But I think the way she handled that situation with me was like, no, ask. And then when he didn't come through, she was not like, told you that your father, nope, never. I can't even, honestly, I can't even think of a time when my mother was like, your father is, that's what I'm talking. Nope. She was like, if I was probably the one that would say that. I was mad and then her words would be, well, he's still your dad.
Still your father. That's exactly right. I think that Aunt Gwen, like definitely, even like me growing up, like she's always been a person that kept its poise, even when and I can only imagine, like definitely she did the same thing what I was saying about with my kids is like, you have to let them own their own relationships with people and let them figure it out. And she understood that wasn't her job to form any opinion. She had her own opinion about him based on marriage. And that was like, that's grown people stuff. But I love the fact that she understood that we got a responsibility together, and me talking bad about him really makes me look bad. I'm gonna let you figure that out on your own. And that's the best gift you can give a kid, is because you were able to kind of come to your own feelings and have your own relationship with your dad, because there was no longer a relationship with your mom and dad. So it was important that you establish your own relationship, good, bad, or indifferent. I've always respected, and your dad would say that, like your dad had, you know when somebody's a good person or a good woman when your dad knew that he had addiction, and he knew that he messed up. I mean, he knew that, but I've never heard him say one bad thing about your mom, like ever. Like it would be like always in his highest regard. Like you know, now Gwen, you know, like you couldn't say nothing bad about Aunt Gwen because I don't know. I think that's something that just stands out with me with your dad. Just like he understood what good was. Like, I mean, it's almost like I had an opportunity and I messed up. Like I
Yeah,
get it, but
that's
he didn't go and
yeah.
blame. Like most people could do the blaming thing, but he'll say, we had to do what she had to do. 'Cause I won't do them right. Like me and him had these
Mhm.
conversations like a lot or whatever, and I used to say, you still love me. She's a good person. That's what he would say. Like she's a good
Yeah,
person. Like,
yeah,
and it wasn't even about loving like in marriage. I think he knew that she was a good person. Like and that says a lot for even a person who has an addiction. They usually blame other people
right. Yeah, yeah,
for it, but he understood that, and he would say that, man, I can't say it the way he would say it, but he'd be like, I messed that up,
yeah.
like, and I've always had a respect I've taken away from that a lot to say, well, dang, like, um, that says a lot for a person who has an addiction to not blame the other person. Because
Mhm.
usually that's what it is, but it was never like, it was always like, I messed up or whatever, and she deserved better. Like he understood, he loved her enough to, let me tell you something about love is more powerful than addiction. You know what I mean? That's what I'm trying to say is that
Yeah,
love can supersede that addiction. He never was blindsided on that. And, you could take comfort of knowing that a person can respect you that way. Like,
yeah.
I always respected that he had that type of respect. Never heard him say like anything like, it's almost like it's an unreal divorce because most of the time it says this nay, but it's always like, nah, man, she was good, whatever. He can remember the good times and stuff. So I think that but isn't it amazing how your father, either whether they're there, lack of there, whatever, the influence that I'm sure your relationship with your dad, I'm sure it influences how you look at men or
Mhm.
understand like certain things or whatever. And so even like with the love part, like I think it would be hard for you to marry a man that don't love you as hard as your dad loved because you've
Yeah.
seen that, but then also
Even in his addiction.
right, even in his addiction, like he showed you that love, but then also what not to look for as
Yeah,
well. And the funny thing is he wouldn't want you to have anything less than what's best for you.
right.
So that's the other thing too is I believe he'll come out the grave and just act the fool if because he really now I think that's just something to like really tug on because we thought that you just had this perfect life, like growing up, like, we just saw image of mom and dad, when they would come from New York, you
Right.
see it's
Yeah.
like social media, you see what you
Yeah.
see.
Mhm.
And we just thought you were the luckiest one. Like, oh, like everything was great. And then I can remember grandma telling me about when they were split, they had split up or whatever. And then I was just like, oh, but it still gotta be great. Like, but then, years later as we connected and stuff, and I realized the influence that had on you, especially I guess being the only child, you didn't have nobody even like to share those feelings with,
Right.
but the
Yeah.
mom. So I feel that a lot now. It's like wow,
Perspective is everything.
yeah, absolutely, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So
Mel, because you're gonna have me in my feelings more. I'm just there's a knot in my throat. I already cried. I'm trying to hold it together, but no, I appreciate you having this conversation with me, and my prayer is that the person who needs to see this will be like encouraged and uplifted, and even if they're doing the wrong thing, decide to be like, you know what, let me step up my game.
right.
Right? Because I mean, yeah, okay, you may be in a place of like, I'm not doing the right thing, but there's grace that God gives, and we can move forward. Start
Absolutely.
doing the right thing, as a
Absolutely.
father. And so, no, I appreciate you. You are definitely, your life is the epitome of what true fatherhood is. Honestly, it really is.
I could say that.
Like I said, I admire that person. Is like, I'm not. You gonna have them one weekend. I'm gonna have them. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not the weekend dad. But yeah, your children are really blessed.
I appreciate that. Well, I hope that they don't make you feel like they're blessed. Because this is the challenging time in their life where they're really trying to become their own, and I'm trying to teach life lessons.
Yeah.
And so I know there's times. I think Bree last week didn't speak to me like the whole week, like the whole week, like it's just, and it's like okay, like girls are different. Like raising a girl,
Mm-hmm.
being a girl dad is so different because it's like you got to consider those emotions that go along
Yes,
with the
yeah.
boys. I can be like, man, speak quietly, shut up, or something like. And I like that, but with her, it's like you can't come at her like that. And if you do, you gonna know it
Mm-hmm.
because she gonna give you the silent treatment. She gonna barely speak to you, and it's like, and I just let her be because I'm like I tell the boys, like she has that space to be emotional, and it's okay. She's internalizing it different than, guys, we kind of shrug it off, and, she'll pretend like she is, but
I don't know, Mel. That might be another episode, though. You trying to take this somewhere else, too.
Okay. We ain't gonna do that then.
I just posted. Y'all go to underscore her specs. So y'all can see what I'm talking about. There's a story up right now in regards to gender and emotions.
Okay.
We won't stop there because we would be here for another hour. But crew, thank you so much for joining us. Happy Father's Day to all the fathers. Keep doing your thing. And if you're not doing it, start doing it.
Happy Father's Day, y'all. Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Bye, guys.